Welcome to Change Your Story, Change Your Life. I'm your host, Mitch Austin. And Change Your Story, Change Your Life was a show that came out of one of my classes called Rise and Speak. So Rise and Speak is a 7-week program where people look at the defining moments of their life and find the lesson or blessing that came out of it. Then they create a talk and they perform it live. So if the Rise and Speak program sounds like something you'd be interested in, reach out to me. I bring it to all spiritual centers and all kinds of places. But what I was noticing when I did the class is when we were talking about our lessons and blessings and our defining moments, people were getting healings. People were getting inspired. And I thought, why not do a show? And that's this show where we take one person and we look at their defining moments, story changes, when the plans went south, and the spiritual food or the lesson and blessings that people got from those experiences. So glad that you could be with us here today. And if you're joining us live, feel free to throw up your questions if you have any, and we'll go ahead and get to them as the show unfolds. Couple things coming up. I have the Eat, Pray, Live workshop coming up this Saturday, 10 a.m. We're going to go for about 2.5 hours, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And here's the deal. We're going to have each participant walk away with a custom plan to up-level their energy, their brain sharpness, their mental clarity, and your inspired action to up-level your life. Right? Because here's the thing, and we start with energy because you can have the best plan, you can have all the resources to up-level your life, live your dream, do that next thing. But if you don't have the energy, you're not going to do it. So we're going to make sure you get that energy this Saturday, and there's going to be a link here for you to sign up. And it's just for a love offering. That's it. Everyone can afford it. You'll walk away with a customized plan. And I had somebody recently who went to one of my workshops say they've lost 18 pounds. Since they've been working their plan. Somebody else is sleeping better. Another person said their brain fog is going away. This stuff really works. And here's the thing. We don't know what we don't know. And I learned a lot in my own personal health journey that I'm going to share in this workshop. Also, I got metaphysical parables and Bible stories decoded. Yeah, there's a code. That's starting on October 10th, and there'll be a link for you to sign up for that. We're going to go for 4 weeks in that class. And lastly, if you're interested in some coaching with me, I do transformational coaching, and I'm also now coaching people in public speaking and presentations. I just was working with a father of the bride for his big wedding speech. So really enjoy that. And if you'd like some support around that, reach out to me, and I'd love to talk to you about it. So we are here today. I'm so excited with Reverend Benjamin Burchall. I met you 4 or 5 months ago, and we were like instant kindred friends. You know, you meet somebody and you just go, this is my person. So I'm so glad to have Reverend Benjamin on the show today. So Reverend Benjamin is a New Thought, contemplative spiritual coach, and ordained minister. It is his joy to help people know the divine power within. He specializes in helping clients find inner peace and manifest their heart's desire. Ben was ordained in 1998 by Reverend Chesbro of Sanctuary of the Beloved. Since then, he has founded several New Thought communities and has provided spiritual counseling and prayer support to many. He is currently the lead minister of the New Thought Spiritual Center, an online fellowship that embraces all forms of new thought. Welcome to the show, Reverend Benjamin. So glad to have you.
It is so fun to be here with you. It's always fun talking to you, Mitch. It
Likewise.
really is.
Likewise. Wait till we get in our flow. It's going to be good. So, so what part of the world are you in right now?
I live in a small city in South Carolina in the United States called Aiken, South Carolina, almost on the border between South Carolina and Augusta. So Augusta is about, depending on which way I go, 20 to 30 minutes from where I live.
Okay.
Yeah, my family is from South Carolina, but the other side of the state.
Oh,
Although I didn't grow up here, so I do have a
right.
connection to the state. Although I didn't grow up here, and yeah, it's been interesting living here and how I got here.
Well, yeah. And in fact, you and I were talking about this before the show, and I thought it was really powerful because, you're pretty much a California guy, right? I mean, you vibe here in California, and now you're all the way in Aiken, South Carolina, which is more of like a retirement community, very conservative, very Christian, it sounds like, because you were telling me they're all asking you if you got saved. How do you respond to that? Like it's just coffee talk, right? Hey, have you been saved? Just checking.
Oh my goodness, it so is. It so is. And if people that have never lived in the South and who've lived in more liberal areas, they have no clue about how important people's religion and political views are.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a different world. It could very well be its own country. It's just very different culturally. But yeah, I came here for a job that I had taken with a friend, and talk about lessons and blessings. This was a lesson for me. I learned some important lessons. This has not been an entirely pleasant experience for me. The job that I took that got me here ended basically within 2 months of me moving here.
No.
So I got myself another job. I found myself working in a hotel.
Wow.
And that was a whole different experience of work for me. But yeah, it's so common, especially with older people, that one of the first questions they might ask you is, what church do you go to? And they may even ask you, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior? They'll do it anywhere. I'm at work trying to check people in at the hotel. And all of a sudden this question comes at me, and it's like, lady, I'm just trying to check you in. I'm not trying to talk about religion. Yeah, I've got other people to check in and phone calls to answer, and I'm at work. I was not used to that experience in California. People pretty much don't talk about those subjects in mixed company, as you would say.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure you handle it tactfully.
Well, I've learned some things because, like I said, I moved here for a job.
Right.
And had I gotten the inner guidance, because I hear my guidance as a voice, and had the voice spoken to me, go to South Carolina, I would have said, hell no. Because the last time that I was here in South Carolina before moving here was in 1999, when my favorite uncle died. And that's when I realized, oh, my family is a bunch of Hicks. The only difference between my family and people we call Hicks is the color of the skin.
Wow.
And I don't fit in here. I'm an oddball. And even though I had fantasized about moving to South Carolina and living here, I said at that point, oh, heck no, I will never move to South Carolina. And here I find myself in South Carolina. And even though it has not been the most pleasant of experiences, I, it's opened up some spaces inside of me that probably would not have been opened had I not been here. Um, had I not been in a place where people really do push their religion and their political views, I would not move to this space of consciousness, of understanding that it doesn't matter what other people think, that I don't have to convince anyone that they're wrong, and that there's a way of dealing with these subjects in consciousness and have a very real world effect doing it, whereas the conversations generally don't have a desired effect. You end up leaving feeling frustrated because you can't get them to see it your way,
Right.
and it just puts this sort of barrier between you and
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But I've learned how to deal with this energetically and how to still have connection with the very people that I disagree with, such that we both still get value out of the interaction. It's so
Ooh,
interesting watching some of
wow.
these conservative Christians that want to bait me into arguments about the Bible and
Right.
religion, my
Right.
sexuality, and all of that
Right.
stuff.
Right.
It's interesting to see how they will forget that I'm not a Christian. Because when we start to talk about my faith and how I see things, it starts feeling to them like Holy Spirit. And they forget who they're talking to. They forget that they're talking to this gay man who they disagree with politically, who they disagree with doctrinally, but they forget because I am, rather than trying to convince them, trying to serve their highest good. And that feels like such a better way to move about the world than to take things personally and to strike
Yeah.
back or try and get them to see it
Yeah.
my way,
Right, or get it all butthurt or offended or all the things we do. It almost sounds like you found Rumi's field, Rumi says
Hmm.
there's a field beyond right and wrong, I'll meet you there. There's and I call that common ground, making the common ground the focus of our relationship and not our differences, and it seems like you have found a way to do that, and I just wanna do a quick
Yeah.
shout out to Reverend Jeannie, so glad you're on with us, and you're one of our favorite spiritual leaders, by the way, as well. Um, and so, you said something very interesting again, before we got on here that it's boring there in Aiken, a little bit boring for you, right? And you said something really powerful. You said, boredom is the crucible of creativity. I would love you to just expand on that a little bit more. Boredom is the crucible of
Hmm.
creativity. That was powerful.
Yeah, it's something that you could not have convinced me of.
Yeah, you didn't sign up for that, did you? Right?
No, no.
Not knowingly,
And
anyhow.
the whole boredom excitement dynamic has affected my life in very deep ways because I like excitement. I like excitement. I have even made dating choices based on whether or not I felt the person was boring or exciting. So to be bored, has been a very bad thing for me. So I thought until I moved here. And the reason it's boring to me, the median age in Aiken is 47. Now I'm above that age now, so I fall right in line with that.
Yeah.
However, my energy tends to be more of a youthful energy, and I enjoy, being friends with younger people, and the types of things
Mhm.
that I enjoy
Mhm.
doing
Mhm.
tend to be when I go, I'm with younger people.
Right.
Um, by and large, people my age, I'm 50. A lot of people my age, they're settled, they have their
Yeah.
few things that they do, and that's
Right.
it.
Right.
I'm an explorer. I love tasting new foods, seeing new sights, trying new
Right.
things, meeting
Right.
different people. I love culture and language and
Mm-hmm.
weird topics that most people don't even have ever on their radar in life.
Yeah.
And I moved to a place that is, kind of billed as a retirement town. So we have a lot of elderly people here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, elderly people are not looking for a lot of exciting things to do because pretty much they've done all of that. And most moved here because they want the quiet life. So when you come from, a big city living where there's things to do constantly, where you just walk out of your door
Right.
and without a plan and there's things to
Yeah.
do,
Yeah.
to a place like Aiken where you have to intentionally seek out things
Right.
to do. And even when you seek them out, many
Right.
of the things just don't exist here.
Right.
So
Right.
it forced me to get creative. How I meet people. I couldn't just walk out of the door and just meet people on the street because I live right outside the city, which is the country.
Right. So it sounds
Uh,
like you had to be creative in meeting new people. So what'd
had
you
to
do?
be.
What'd you do?
Had to be creative, had to learn to enjoy um, things that maybe I wouldn't have even bothered looking at before.
Like what?
Like, for instance, since there are a lot of retirees here, a lot of the events are really kind of centered around retirement sensibilities.
Mm.
So even our craft shows and art shows, when you go, you'll find arts and crafts that are generally more appealing to the older, more conservative population. Before, had I walked past some of this stuff on the street, I would have been like, and kept on going.
Right.
But since these are the things that are here, and if I want to do anything, I need to go and check them out or just sit at home doing nothing. I started going to some of these things and started talking to people at these events. And lo and behold, it's interesting. We make conclusions about things like about what old people are like, what retirees are like, what conservative people are like. And you get out there and you start talking to people. And I found that there's a lot more connection to be had
Mm.
than I would have assumed.
Ooh. Ah.
There's a lot more connection than I would have assumed. And just because people are quiet, because generally once you reach a certain age, you're more circumspect about yourself. You aren't necessarily out there like 20 something year olds just making a bunch of
Right,
noise.
right.
So these events can be kind of quiet, and people are kind of like just talking with their spouse or partner, or if they're there by themselves, just being there. And it would be easy to assume that you can't talk to people when you're in those situations.
Oh, yeah.
So just going up and asking a stupid question like, "Oh, do you know where the restrooms are?"
Mhm.
Just to open up some conversation, or, "Oh, I just moved here. Have you ever been at this event before?" I find that there's just a lot more connection available than
Mhm.
if you sit at home just judging everything from the outside.
Right.
And also another thing that was big for me is there is no New Thought community here
Ooh.
whatsoever.
Ooh.
So very quickly, I knew, well, if I don't start one, there won't be one for me to go to. So it hit me in my first few months. Well, are you just going to sit around and bitch and complain about what's not here, or are you going to do something about it? You're a minister. So I decided to do something about it. So I started a community, and right away, I think in our first meditation, I had 15 people. And we
Wow.
went from there. And I
Wow.
found that even though this is a very heavily conservative Christian Baptist, oh, there's a Baptist church on every corner. It's incredible how many
Wow.
churches are here. Literally, you're at some intersections, and there can be 2 or 3 churches just on that intersection.
Wow.
That's how many churches there are. You'll go into little out of the way communities and plunk
Mhm.
right in the middle of the neighborhood is a church. I'm not used to seeing that. And
Mhm.
but I found that even though that's the environment, there are people here looking for something different. And there are people here who have strains of new thought philosophy here.
Wow.
They just haven't had anywhere to go. They haven't had a way to meet
Mm,
other people that are also here that are,
mm,
flowing in the same,
mhm,
vein.
mhm.
So here I came and decided I'm going to do something about it. And it was a hit. And
Look
it
at
was
that.
great. It was great. It was great because out of the boredom of not having, people that I could
Mhm.
have these kinds of conversations with,
Right.
came, well, I better do something about it. And I think we don't do that enough. I've had conversations with a lot of people who
Yeah.
are in situations like I am, and they do like I did,
Yeah.
complain about not having a spiritual community to be a part of. And
Right.
I'm going, well, maybe, just maybe, the reason you're there is to start one. And you don't have to have a piece of paper saying that you're a reverend to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that powerful when we give ourselves permission to step in to our calling, to the medicine that the world needs, and when we step into it, even without the world really telling us, "This is yours," like, when it comes from a higher authority, and I just love that you did that, because I think that's when things get really interesting and things start to flow, right? Coming up, we're also gonna talk about 'cause, we had a little pre-interview where you had talked about, you used to poo-poo, "Do what you love and the money will follow," but now that seems like it's switched a little bit, so in a little bit, after our commercial, we're gonna talk about that and a few other things, that New Thought Monastery, we gotta talk about that too. So don't go away,
Mm.
anyone. We're gonna have a quick commercial, and we'll be right back.
Blessings, everybody. My name is Jafon Seeley. Could you imagine what is actually possible when we start honoring and recognizing our inherent worth, realizing that we are that which is assisting in co-creating our experience? And with that understanding, start recognizing that every human, every individual, everything that we interact with reflects that same inherent worth.
It's not about an adventure, it's about the atmosphere of the consciousness of adventure, the lifestyle of adventure. How many people would say that their lifestyle is adventurous?
My name is Lisa Benson. I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant and the author of Anchored in Bias, Fired Over White Tears. It's a book detailing my lived experiences with workplace bias and what fueled my passion for normalizing conversations about differences and creating safe spaces for everyone to bring the best version of themselves to life every day.
Welcome back to Change Your Story, Change Your Life. I'm so glad we ran that commercial for the ANTN conference. I'm going to be there next week. So if you haven't signed up, you can still sign up. You can watch online virtually if you want. I don't think they're taking any on-site registration, but you could still sign up virtually. The keynote speakers that they had last year were brilliant, and I know this year they're going to be just as brilliant, and you don't want to miss it. So hopefully you can jump on with that. And I do want to welcome Kathy G's watching live with us, and Shay Bird. And actually, Shay Bird has a question. She's asking, how did you gather those people, that 15? How did you get them together? Especially because, everyone's asking you, have you been saved by Jesus? So I can only imagine the conversations to get people there.
I didn't, is the real answer. I didn't. I simply set in motion in consciousness what I wanted. And I wanted a place that, that I could rent for Sundays or Saturdays, either whenever I wanted to do my meetings. Sometimes I did on Saturdays, sometimes Sundays.
Right.
And one day there's a yoga shop, yoga center here, Aiken Yoga. And it just popped into my mind, send them a message and see if they might be interested in opening the space to me. I had never been there, never met the owners or anything.
Right.
I sent them an email real quick telling them what that I'm a New Thought minister and that I'm starting a congregation here and I'm looking for blah, 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 and tell them what I do and everything. And the response back, because I was kind of like holding my breath, like, I don't know how this is going to go. And the response back from the owner was, oh my goodness, yes, I'm interested.
Fabulous. Wow.
And she did not want to charge me to use the space. We worked out something anyway because I felt better with some kind of monetary, remuneration for using the space. So we did it on a donation basis. She would take half of whatever was collected, which worked out beautifully. And I absolutely did nothing. I did nothing. I set up for meditation, started the meditation music, and when I opened my eyes, 15 people were sitting in the seats. And it was because she had told people.
Wow.
And some of those people were some of her students. She made it a requirement for them to come to my meditations.
Oh.
So does this whole ministry thing have to be hard? Absolutely not. Do we have to promote? That can help. But do we have to? Absolutely not. Because we're all connected vibrationally. And when we ascend in consciousness to the vibration of serving people and people getting benefit and being in joy, somehow, some way, they find us. Now, if something comes to us to do, you get an idea to make a phone call, open up a meetup.com group or whatever, do that. But doing ministry this way has helped me to let go of you have to do these certain things in order to be successful. Yes. Because you do not. No. And I can't explain how that works. I just know that it does.
Well, and even because you went on to create the online spiritual community, right? New Thought Spiritual Center. And how many do you have now that are signed up for that?
We just hit over 700 people in the group. And it's been just fascinating how that's happened. I closed up Spiritual Living Center here in Aiken a few years ago before the pandemic, not because of the pandemic. It just so happened the pandemic thing, the shutdowns happened afterwards. But I closed up because I thought I was moving back to California at that moment.
Right.
And I ended up staying here a bit longer. And the truth is, I have been running from my calling for decades and have only started these communities when I've been in a situation like moving here where I just can't walk into someone else's community and find
Right.
that connection. It's always been, oh goodness, I guess I gotta start it my own self in order if I'm going to have what I want. But then I run away from it because ministry and church and all that had such a bad taste in my mouth.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
but I came to understand that I would only be happy to the degree that I'm
Mm.
living out my calling.
You repeat that?
That I would only be happy to the degree that I'm living out my calling.
I will only be happy to the degree that I'm living out my calling.
So as long as I continue to run
Yep.
from doing this work,
Yep.
there will be a big hole.
Yes.
Because what I've come to understand is this is what I chose to do before I came to planet Earth.
Mhm.
So I must do it
Mhm.
for my own happiness, my own soul's development. So
Yes.
I was sitting right here in this spot in meditation one day and just surrendering and saying yes, literally saying yes to spirit that I am available to serve other people's spiritual well-being. And while I was in that meditation, I get a chime on my phone. So I pick up my phone to see what it is. And it's a message from Facebook. So I open the laptop so I can see it on a bigger screen.
Mhm.
And they said, we've looked at your profile and we've determined that you might be a good match to be the admin of a group. I was like, what? And I had never heard of Facebook doing this sort of thing. And so I clicked on the link to see what the group was. And it was the Science of Mind group. I'm like, okay.
You got your divine assignment as soon as you said yes. Right? You got your divine assignment. I love
At
that.
that point, there were just under 400 people there. I think it was like 398 or something like that.
Mhm.
And the group, the admin had disappeared several years ago. And the group was largely not being moderated. It was just sort of a place where people would go and advertise their talks, post YouTube videos, memes, quotes, that sort of thing.
Right.
But there was no conversation going on, and very few posts even got likes.
Wow.
And so I immediately knew why I was getting this invitation. So I accepted to be admin. And what I hadn't told you was that I had set up another group on Facebook because I had gotten the nudge that I needed to move ministry online. So I had already started another group, but I hadn't done anything but started it and chose the name.
Right.
And this next week, this whole thing happens that now suddenly, in the moment that I'm saying yes, I went from having no group of people to having 400 to serve.
Like that. Like
that.
There you go.
With no candidating, no, getting out there and beating the pavement and trying to get people to come just saying yes, got this chime, and it was off and running.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy to see how things are going now. So in the few months that I've been leading this group, we've gone from 400 now to 700.
Right.
And I just know we're going to hit 1,000 probably by the end of the year.
Well, maybe after this show, who knows? People
who knows?
will get to feel you, know you, enjoy your vibe. We have a link if people want to check out the group.
Yeah.
I know you're on there all the time, really giving great spiritual food. I'm also one of the moderators, so I'm also jumping on, and we're we're doing the Eat, Pray, Live workshop together, and there's going to be other workshops and learning opportunities. So it's going to be really
Yeah.
rich. I hope that whoever watches, if this speaks to you, that you join the New Thought Spiritual Center group on Facebook, because it's amazing, and you don't want to miss Reverend Benjamin. He's got so much going on. But here's the thing. You had said earlier, and maybe this plays into it while you were running or not, but that there was a belief that you kind of had to work hard and do certain things to get the money, to do the thing, right? To be fiscally solvent in the world, you have to work hard and prove yourself and do all these things. And that you really weren't buying on to the follow, do what you love and the money will follow, which really what we love is our divine assignment, right? But that
Yes.
shifted for you a little bit. Can you tell us
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, there was a number of years when I had rejected spirituality. I've been doing this thing for a long time, uh, almost 30 years now, in New Thought.
Right.
And I had seen a lot of New Thoughters like me who were not getting the results that we were promised in this teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them were ministers, some of them were practitioners, others were just folks that had been around for many years. They're doing the affirmative prayers, they're doing the meditation, they're reading the books and all of this. And they have no money, and they're struggling, and they are in bad relationships, and I began to go, to put it bluntly, this shit doesn't work. And I rejected it all.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, guess what happened? My life started working.
You let go of the resistance.
Because there was a missing piece that I got when I wasn't in the teaching, then I didn't get when I was in the teaching. And that was, now I understand it as the word embodiment. But I learned the lesson of action. Action. That's a piece that sometimes gets left out because we've made it so intellectual and heady, and people get the impression that they can own and everything's just going to fall out of the sky into their lap without them doing anything or being anything or changing who they are in the world.
Right.
And rejecting the teaching for me was really rejecting that kind of thinking.
Yes.
And jumping into action into my life. And suddenly things began to work like crazy. And I eventually came back to my spiritual self through a series of stories that we could talk about sometime. But eventually came back to my spiritual self. And now having that whole piece about action and embodiment, being the thing, not just thinking it up in my head, not just having intellectual phrases and words to spew out at people, but actually being the thing. If what I'm wanting to affirm is prosperity, because to affirm means to make it firm, to make it established. Well, you're not doing that just saying some words.
No.
Establishing it in your life is being the prosperous person, which means doing what prosperous people do.
Exactly. And vibrating at the level where you're a match for prosperity in whatever form that you're wanting to call it in. And the way I've been told, when you embody it, you actually vibrate above it and then attract it in, whether it's money or health or relationship.
In anything, because prosperity is more than just money. It's not just about materiality, but it includes materiality. And so during those years that I rejected spirituality, I really did sort of rationally see that just doing what you love doesn't necessarily bring you money.
Right.
And I was a person that, I could, I've taught, classes about, the formal and informal fallacies and, logical thinking and whatnot. And all of that stuff is good. It's all good. There are higher realities than that, but all of that stuff is good. But if you are only functioning on a rational level, then doing what you love and the money will follow doesn't make sense, because you can look all around the planet and see people doing things that they love doing and they have got no money.
That's right.
But they're doing what they love doing. So I didn't buy it, but a different world has been opening itself up to me. And it comes in little miracles, big miracles. One little miracle that happened is I play around with manifestation just to see, what can I do? I just like, playing around with things sometimes. And one of the things I like to do is find money. I love finding money. It's just such a pleasure to find money. And before I moved here, I would find money all the time. Then when I moved here, I didn't find any money. And then I made this conclusion that, this is a small town. Maybe I don't find money because there's not much money here and people are holding on to everything. So they're definitely not dropping it on the ground. So I didn't find money for years. And then one day I'm thinking about finding money. Why don't I find money? And I realized I'm thinking entirely differently about finding money than I used to. Maybe the reason I'm not finding it is because I don't believe it's there to find.
Ooh.
So I started playing around with it. Like, what if I just play around with believing that there is money to be found? And I started finding money.
Wow.
And even just a few weeks ago, I was on my way to the hotel where I work. And I do these what if questions. I don't do so many affirmations, but I throw questions out into the atmosphere. And I said, what would it be like to find $1 today? I think it would be kind of cool just to find $1 today, some kind of way. And my whole day went. It was the end of shift. No money had showed up. I was talking with my coworker that I was relieving. She was coming in and I was going. And I was looking through the lobby towards where people were eating breakfast. And right there in front of me, it's interesting that I hadn't seen it before, but right there in front of me was a $1 bill on the ground. So I pick it up and I give it to my coworker to put into the drawer in case somebody were to come and get it. Of course, no one ever did. So I just put it in my own pocket. And it wasn't until the next day I was making a video talking about manifestation and prosperity. And in the middle of making the video, I flashed back to the day before and I went, wait a minute. I said that I wanted to find $1. And I found one, and I didn't even recognize when it happened that I did it.
Ah.
There it was. Then another day, it was a $10 bill that a guest found on the ground, again, right in front of me. And somehow I didn't see it until they looked down and saw it. And they asked me what to do. And I said, well, what do you want to do with it? So he reached forward and put it in my hands.
Wow. I want to follow you around, Reverend Benjamin, and I want to be out just in front of you. So it's almost like Easter, but it's with money that you find.
How things can appear. And another time I had someone, just decide to give me some Mexican money. They had been to Mexico. And they had exchanged American dollars for pesos, but they didn't need it anymore. Yeah. And they liked, my service. And they were like, I just felt like giving this to you.
Wow.
Here.
Wow.
And it was like, you. Okay. Yeah.
Master.
The lesson for me has been, if I'm living in joy, if I'm truly living in joy and including money in my idea of joy, that the money does follow.
Amen. Joy, that vibration
comes at me. People throw it at you. I mean, I've had, oh my goodness, I was in between cars.
Well, hold on a second. We do have to take a quick break. But and I love the joy, because the joy raises the vibration. But sometimes we get into comparison about our
Still on
manifestation.
my roof.
Oh, that's okay. Sometimes we get into comparison about our manifestations, like they got it and I don't, and that takes us out of our joy. So we're going to run a commercial here real quick. Don't run away. We're going to talk a little bit about what takes us out of our joy when we start doing that. I know Reverend Benjamin has a really good story about that. So be right back.
I was made in the image. I was made in the image of love. I was made in the image. I was made in the image of love. Here and now I can see I was made beautifully. I was made in the image. I was made in the image of love.
Wish we'd all stop acting like we're strangers if we could see underneath. We are one family, and it don't matter where you come from. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. One love, one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one love. Every heart beats to the rhythm of one. What if we could rise?
Every heart beats to the. I won't sing it. That's not my lane, but I was getting all wrapped up. So, Reverend Benjamin, tell us about that time you were in the class and somebody had manifested something. I think it might have been a house. Tell us about that.
Yes. While I was busy bringing in the money to keep the spiritual community going, I was struggling financially myself. There were still yet some pieces that I needed to put together in my own mind and life in order for the financial stability to really plunk down into my experience that I had not yet been doing. So I was offering this class, and I can't even remember what the name of the class was. But during the first session of the class, I taught about the 4 basic emotions, what the emotions, each emotion means, and how we use them in our manifestation journey. And at the beginning of the class, I have had everyone to set their intention for what they wanted to be manifested in physical form by the end of this 5-week class. And one of the women said that she wanted a house, a home. She was in the middle of getting a divorce, and she wanted her own property. And she was a horse person, so it had to be a horse property. And had to have stables and all of this stuff. And by the next week, she had her manifestation.
Wow.
And as she's telling us, everybody is celebrating and clapping and congratulating her. And
Right.
I'm standing there trying to be present, feeling jealous that she got her manifestation, because I'm struggling to pay my bills every month. I have some really great friends that were really pretty much helping me out every single month to help me to stay afloat. And I wasn't feeling good about that, because I judged that needing financial help is a bad thing. So out of that judgment, of course, I felt very bad about myself in the situation.
Right.
And it was, for me, the first time I really experienced what many, many other New Thought ministers and practitioners also experience. We sometimes emphasize manifesting materiality so much, that when it's not working for someone, they go into guilt, shame, and blame because in their view, what they were promised that was going to happen did not happen. And if you're a minister teaching others this kind of thing, you have that, plus laid on top of it, you can have these thoughts like, and I know I'm not the only one because there's no new thoughts. Everybody's had the same thoughts. You can think as a minister, well, how can I tell other people how to live and what's good for their life if I don't have it myself? My life needs to be all sewed up and look this way in order to be, because I always said I want to be an example to other people. And that's a dangerous, dangerous belief to take on, that you have to be the example of everything that you teach. Because you can't be the example
for everything. You can't be the example for everything. And to be an example, and I love that you're pulling back the curtain, because so many spiritual leaders don't. They're afraid to pull back the curtain of where they weren't in full mastery of something. So thank you for doing that, for pulling back. But if you're going to be an example, you have to show the whole story, the whole transformation. You have to show the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And that's what's really challenging in spiritual leadership, because I feel it too, right? People want you to be, up here vibing with got it all down, and I want to be like you. But really the journey is, here's my junk in my trunk, and here's how we're going to use metaphysical principle to move forward. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being so transparent.
And really, who are those, quote, people? Do those
I don't know any of them.
People really exist? They exist right here. Because the truth of the matter is, people want relatability. People don't want somebody that projects themselves as perfect.
No.
Because it doesn't come across as real. And when someone comes across as, oh, I have all the money and I have all the great relationships and everything works perfectly in my life all the time, and I'm this manifesting God, people see through the bullshit, because they know that every human being, if you're in physical form, you've got problems.
You got problems.
So,
just like Shay says, I used to tell fellow healer, if we all had to be perfect, there wouldn't be any of us.
Right. So I agree with you that the example, so what I have started to say to people is, I'm not here to inspire you by my perfection, because I ain't got none of that.
Amen.
I'm here to inspire you by how I rise.
Yes.
Because that's what people can relate to. We're supposed to be, instead of trying to teach people from an intellectual standpoint, what we are supposed to be doing, I believe, is showing people how you can take that mess that you're in and that I'm in, because we're in the same mess.
Yes.
Maybe I have a financial issue. Maybe I have a health issue. Yes. Maybe I have a relationship issue. Yes. This is where I was yesterday. I'm not all the way up here yet, but I'm not still right there. And this is what I did to get me this next step up. Because the truth is that we don't have to, be the expert and know it all and be it all. We just have to be one step further than the person that we're serving, so that we can show them in a real way, look, I was depressed. I wanted to kill myself. Whatever the situation is. And this is where I am now. And this is how I got there. If you want some of this, let me partner with you and walk with you, so that you also can be where I am right now. And then together we can walk even further. And I find that to be more relatable to people.
More relatable and more powerful, because you were just there. Like when we're 6, 7, 8 steps up the rung, sometimes we forget what it was like to be just 1 step up or 2 step ups. And then it's hard to tell people, right? To really connect with them. But when you're 1 or 2 up and you're reaching back to help somebody come to that higher ground from where they're at, it's relatable and it's powerful.
Yes.
Inspiring.
And it puts you in that place, to use sort of an old phrase, of conscious competence. Like if you want to learn to play the piano, the worst teacher to go to is someone who is an expert who actually doesn't even know how to tell you what they do, because they just do it and they do it so well and they make it look effortless.
Yes.
The best piano teacher is the piano teacher that maybe isn't such an expert, but they play well, but they know exactly what it is that they do and can tell you. So it's like the person who is wealthy and who has always had wealth, who's had it for a very long time, they're really not at a place to be able to reach back and to teach the person that has nothing, because they have forgotten what it feels like to be in that person's shoes. Because they're so far away from that vibration now. But when you're only 2 or 3 vibrations away, you still remember what it feels like to be broke. You still remember what it feels like. For instance, we often say to people, well, you need to change your consciousness. That is so unrelatable, because when I'm in pain, my body is aching. And you tell me, oh, you just need to change your consciousness. Well, you're well and you don't know what it's like. Well, how do I do that? What does that even mean, to change my consciousness when my body is hurting me so bad that I can't sleep?
And I love what you're saying, because if we can't meet people, and I love this, I heard this phrase from a coach once, and I use it in my practice, and it sounds like you do too. Very successful coach was coaching this woman, knew the answer to her problem, started telling her all about the answer, and she said, wait. She said, I need you to be here with me before I can go somewhere with you. And you can't, and it's really hard to be there with someone if you can't go into your own history of pain or shortcoming or falling down or misfortune or the bottom dropping out or the dark night of the soul. And I think that's why it's so important for us to tell our stories, because when we tell our stories, it keeps that part of us alive in a way that we can bring light and inspiration to someone else, just like you're doing with your stories.
And when I coach people, for me, the role of coach and minister are slightly different in my mind. As minister, you often think of, I'm teaching and telling people.
Right.
That doesn't have to be ministry, but that's often the way we do it. As a coach, I'm very clear. I don't have your answer. No. That's not my role.
No.
My role is to hold space for you to discover your answer inside.
Amen.
It's to hold the space for you by asking you questions, hearing you, and mirroring back to you what I hear and feel from you in a way that it makes you think about what you're thinking, so that you come to your own conclusion that what you've been thinking is a lie.
Amen.
And when you do it, you get the realization. But when I tell you that what you're thinking is a lie,
it doesn't happen.
It's resistance, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And we could do this all day long. I think we need a 2-hour show, but we're out of time. So reach out to Reverend Benjamin. The link is in the comments. I want to thank New Thought Media Network. Please donate generously if you love this show. I'm going to be at Unity Village next Wednesday. You're not going to want to miss the show. I'm just going to grab somebody at the conference and we're going to sit them down and talk about their life. So till then, shine your light, tell your story. Thank you so much, Reverend Ben. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks for watching.